Today on a very special episode of Airgun Channel, we're going to learn how to change the hammer spring in your Avenge-XL. We'll be working on my Dirty 30. As well, I'm going to add a 700cc tank, and I'm going to show you how to tune it for slugs. And we're going to do the Shooter 1721 Super Tune for some 46 grain FX Halo slugs. And meow, let's get this party started. And then I said, okay, there's one more on the table before I get out of here. Let's nail this sucker. That's what happened. Alright, real quick when tuning air guns, never adjust the hammer spring tension when the rifle is cocked. And with the regulators, never adjust the regulator down in pressure when there's air in the gun. In my final tune, I did end up having a longer spring in here. So your Avenge-XL is probably going to come with a long spring installed. Just leave it in there. So step one, we're going to degas the gun. And then you're going to turn your regulator all the way down. The way the hammer spring works is when you screw it in clockwise, you're increasing the hammer spring tension by compressing the spring, and that increases your velocity. With the regulator, when you screw the regulator in clockwise, it decreases the pressure because it's making the chamber inside the regulator smaller. Then when you back the regulator adjustment out counterclockwise, you're making the chamber inside bigger, raising your regulator pressure, which obviously raises your velocity. There's going to be an optimum speed for whatever you're shooting, pellets or slugs, and by tuning your rifle, all we're trying to do is get it to shoot that exact speed, or close to it. The other part of it is that you want to achieve that speed, but also have a low standard deviation, or a low difference in FPS between shots. So I've been saying lately that a good target to shoot for is anywhere between 2 and 5 FPS difference between shots, and you probably got a pretty good tune. And the way you do that is sort of by working the hammer spring and the regulator up together. And here's how you do that. This is how I would just tune from scratch. With the regulator at its lowest setting, I was at about 1500. So let's say we bumped that up a teeny bit and we're at 1600. And then I'd have our hammer spring somewhere in the middle so that I'd be able to go from there down or up in velocity. Let's say we were going for 900 feet per second. I took a couple shots and I was at 850. I would then turn my hammer spring up a little bit, but there will come a time when, let's say, no matter how far you turn your hammer spring, it won't go over 875 feet per second. That's how you know it's time to increase your regulator pressure slightly. It's when increasing your hammer spring no longer has an effect on your velocity. Don't rely on your gauge when you're turning up your regulator pressure. Just turn it a very small amount, let's say 1/8 of a turn, and don't worry about what your gauge does. You will be increasing your regulator pressure. Technically, before you go to increase your regulator pressure, you should back your hammer spring out to either, let's just say the halfway point, but technically you want to back it right to the point where hammer spring adjustment stops having an effect on the velocity. So most likely you would have hit 875 FPS, and you would have kept turning it, and it would not have given you any extra FPS. You would want to back the hammer spring back out to, let's just say, 870 feet per second. But then once you bump your regulator up a teeny bit, when you go back to your hammer spring, now moving it in will have an effect on the velocity, and hopefully you'll hit your target velocity and be fully tuned. Once again, the way you know you have a good tune is if your shots stay pretty consistent in FPS from shot to shot. So that means duplicate numbers and maybe a difference of between 2 and 5 FPS between shots. Oh, holy crap, we got it, you guys. Bam! And just to catch everybody up, Rick over there at Shooter 1721 had told me he got great accuracy with the FX Halo 46 grain slugs going 925 feet per second. I ended up being able to achieve that at around 1600 PSI. Yeah, baby! And I knew I had good harmony between my hammer spring and regulator pressure because just look at these FPS. And we're there, you guys. All right, I don't want to waste any more ammo. I say we have it right here. So here's the next day. And over the next 30 shots or so, my hammer spring did end up settling at about 918 feet per second. But it turns out that was an even more accurate speed than 925. Some pellets are lubed when you open the package. If they're not, or if they dried out, you definitely need to lube your slugs before you shoot them. And here's how you do it. You just take some ballistol. This cleans guns, but it also is lubricant. And it's just what they use. Spray it on here like this. Spray it on like a microfiber cloth, and then roll the slugs around in there and dump them back in your container. This is why the pros also clean their pellets before, or slugs, because that's all lead particles that came off. So we're nice and lubed though. The reason you do it like that instead of just spraying it directly on the slugs is because you don't want to get any lube inside the hollow point. And when you're doing this with pellets, which all the dudes in competition do, you don't want it to get inside the skirt. Pretty wild. And here is what those FX Halo Hollow Point slugs do to a can at 50 yards away. Although right meow, we're starting at a very special 35 yards. All right, I gotta do this before my dear friend walks over there, because you guys know who I'm talking about. Oh my gosh. This is the first shooting test right after I got done tuning for the 46 grain FX Halos, and this is at 35 yards. These are supposed to be going 925, so we'll see what happens here. So we had a creeper on the first one, which is fine. This gun's been sitting for 2 days. All right, here we go again. Look at that, you guys. We just printed that group with the 46 grain FX slugs, solid 35 yards. And my gun's tuned perfectly too, because we have a low standard deviation aside from the two hoppy ones. And this regulator will get broken in and work flawlessly. So we nailed it on our tune. We freaking nailed it. There's that group close up. Very good for the first try shooting slugs. Before we get to the next stage of testing, which will be the 50-yard shooting, let me show you how I changed my tank out to a 700cc. It's pretty basic. This is what's considered standard airgun bottle thread, which is called M18 by 1.5 thread size. You want to degas your gun before you do this. Good old 4mm. Once you degas your gun, your bottle will be easy to unscrew. Just unscrew it, and there will be a little O-ring in there. I like to stand mine straight up in the air so it's a little easier to keep your O-ring centered. But there is a groove that it will automatically fit into. But yeah, it was as easy as that. I just screwed this baby on. It held air perfectly. Couldn't be simpler. And you can look in the description if you want to grab one of these 700cc bottles. And the lead dust collector that I'm using today is called the Avenge-XL Emperor. And those are available wherever fine moderators are sold. All right, now we're set up at a very special 47 yards away, we'll call it 50. This again is the FX Halo 46 grain slugs. And my hammer spring did end up settling around 918 feet per second. But I think that ended up being more accurate than 925. And the shrapnel got a can that was like way inside there, 916 feet per second. The can magazine's jammed because it has to have pressure in the cans. All right, I think we're set for some 50 yard. I do need to adjust my crosshairs though, because these do have a flatter trajectory, so I guess we're still sighted in. All right, I got a little too relaxed on that last one. We'll do it again though. Go for this guy right here. That's just what we wanted it to do. There it is, you guys, 50 yards away. I haven't shot my camera in a few years. So here was that first group that we did. This is a close-up. And I sighted in, and then boom. That's basically a nickel right there. The important part is that it's grouped together, so you know what to expect. There's no flyers or nothing. So meow, we got a nice calm day. We got some FX Halo 46 grain all lubed up. And we're set up at a very special 102 yards away. We'll call it 100. Pretty sure we'll drop straight down, so let's try one of these. All right. Let's see if our scope will go down that far. Sure will. All right, and then I think we're gonna come over too, because it's not that windy. We just literally clicked our crosshairs like a foot. Pretty close. Pretty close. Alright, I don't want to waste ammo, so I am going to actually click one more down. I believe I just did. Alright, let's see if we can get close to one of these. It's close, alright. Let's do a 3-shot group. Just same hold it at 100 yards, you guys, with a slug. Wow, you guys, dime-sized group, 100 yards, slugs. Hit the bullseye at 100 yards with slugs, you guys. I did finish out these groups, but I'm not used to shooting 100 yards. So it took me a couple minutes to get in the groove. But here's my second set of bullseyes. That's funny. I had a weird feeling that my camera wasn't recording, but I didn't come back to check. That's my 100-yard group, like the second time I tried this. And then up here at the end, this is 7 shots. Like,
my first group was like this. It was a 3-shot group, and then I put one more in bullseye, and it goes right there.
All right, here we go. 100 yards. Damn, I slipped on the trigger, you guys. Unless that was a regulator creep, I guess we'll find out right now. Yep, it was. That's it. All right, new group. Shooting off bags is not easy for me. I rushed on that one because the car's coming up the driveway. Try it again. There it is, you guys. This does nickel-sized groups at 100 yards. If you can shoot. Covered by a nickel, dime size center to center. And a nickel covers the entire group. That's 100 yards on my first try. You know, we just sighted in. I was just gonna say that felt like a really good shot, and it was. I just need to shoot better, you guys. Watch this. I'm gonna shoot some more right here. Yeah, look at that. You just have to believe in yourself. That's the key, guys. Look at this, you guys. I got this down. I'm like same hole in it at 100 yards. This is great. Wow, when I relax a little bit and believe in myself, I could hit it no problem. This one up here was from the first 3-shot group I did. I did 1, 2, 3, and this is before I got it down. And then I came back to this one because I had run out of bullseye, so we just won't count this one. And then I just kept sailing them in there. So there's a quarter. We're in MOA territory for sure. And that's like 7 or 8 shots right there. So very impressive accuracy with this Avenge-XL. And something they mentioned in the Pyramid Insider video. Imagine if you took this long spring, left it in there, and then changed the caliber to 22. You'd have one of the most powerful slug shooters in existence. You'd be able to send the heaviest 22 slugs downrange at unprecedented speeds. A full caliber change kit on the Avenge-XL or any of the Avenge-X series is literally less than most companies charge for just a magazine. And obviously you're getting a magazine, a probe, and a barrel. Dang, it's fun to wait for it to hit. All right, this is what 100 yards looks like. And this is what you can expect, okay? There's hitting a can, and then there's cutting it in half with your slug. So that's happened multiple times. Here's another piece of that guy. So there's actually a lot of that going around. This guy had to hit him twice, but I got him with a headshot on the last one. Wow. Yeah, those FX slugs are pretty crazy.